Hello, everyone. Welcome to Grid Live Pre-Race. Joe Samriego here, along with Kobe Lambert from the podium finish. We have Adam Lemeries and Julia. When Julia's here, you know that means MotoGP is running this weekend. And what an exciting day! Very exciting qualifying sessions all around. Very excited to have everyone in the chat room. We already got people. What a drama on qualifying Monaco Grand Prix. Leclerc on pole again at home race. Dimas, thank you for that comment. Be sure to tune in the entire show and share all your comments with us and for everyone else. And also be sure to check out our Patreon, Colin, the show, Mark, and Robin. Each and every month, they help keep us on the air, help pay the bills. We love being on the air to provide racing coverage to everyone. And if you want to do a one-time contribution, buy me a coffee. Link in the video description. And we're going to be talking about Formula One last, MotoGP. But first, we're going to talk about NASCAR because Kobe, along with this race, you got the Xfinity race coming up shortly at Charlotte Motor Speedway.
Yeah, I'm gonna be covering the Xfinity race at Charlotte Motorsports. I kind of wish I could stay for the entire show, talk about all the drama saw in Formula One qualifying with Leclerc on pole, whether or not he can end his Monaco Grand Prix curse, and also saw a surprising pole winner in MotoGP qualifying with Fabio Di Gianantonio on pole there. But starting with NASCAR, the longest race of the weekend, the longest race of NASCAR season, and the final event on Memorial Day weekend. The Coca-Cola 600 at Charlotte Motorway has 37 drivers racing in NASCAR's second crown jewel event of 2022. Also kicking off the second half of the regular season, winning can be huge in having momentum entering the summer months and on the run towards the playoffs. Active drivers who have won the Coke 600, Kurt Busch in 2010, Kevin Harvick in 2011 and 2013, Martin Truex Jr. in 2016, 2019, Austin Dillon 2017, Kyle Busch 2018, Brad Keselowski 2020, and Kyle Larson in 2021. Starting with you, Joe, which drivers, past race winners, and champions could be legitimate contenders to win this year's Coca-Cola 600?
Out of all of them, one driver, you're going to be surprised I'm going to say this. Austin Dillon. I feel Austin Dillon all year long has been quietly just in the top 10. Yes, occasionally a bad race, bad luck, but he and that RCR team is looking good. Yes, Tyler Reddick steals the headlines quite a bit when he's running out front. He is so close to getting that first win. But with Austin Dillon, I anticipate he's going to have a good race. He knows how to win this race. If he could have a good qualifying effort, stay out of trouble, I think he could position himself to get this race win. He's done it before. And the big thing with this race, yes, it's four stages that are 100 miles long. Excuse me, 100 laps long. With that, if he could put himself in that fourth and final stage, 100 laps, I see him working his way towards the front, getting the win. So Austin Dillon, that's who I'm going to be watching for the Coca-Cola 600.
Well, Joe, one driver that I'm going to be looking out for is the defending champion, Kyle Larson. Only has one win so far this year, and that was at Auto Club Speedway in Fontana, California. Last year, he had a really solid year in his first year at Hendrick Motorsports. This year hasn't been so good. We know this race starts in the daytime and ends at night. And Kyle Larson, last year, it was this race that propelled him to the NASCAR Cup Championship. Could it happen again in 2022? I say yes.
Yeah, Kyle Larson, and it was this race last year, which really kicked off the momentum for Kyle Larson heading into the summer months, and then it seemed like the number five team just clicked off win after win after win, and it really catapulted this championship run we saw last year with Kyle Larson, and I think this will be a great opportunity for Kyle Larson to get back to his consistent winning ways. And I think, and Larson even said it seemed like they won all the time last year, but it seems like now yes, they've been competitive, but they just don't have the edge that they had last year over the competition. It just goes to show how this new next gen cars really make things more competitive. I'm going to be watching Hendrick Motorsports, Joe Gibbs Racing, Team Penske. I think those are going to be a lot of teams to watch. And also, you can't forget Trackhouse. Ross Chastain has been on fire to start off this season, and Chastain actually won the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series race last night that was a heartbreaker for Carson Hocevar. I'm sure you'll hear more about Carson Hocevar and Ross Chastain in that truck race on Monday night at 7 p.m. Eastern time. I'm Grid Live Encore, Ben Snyder and Brandon Crossland. And while this race, the Coke 600, seems to favor championship caliber teams and drivers, the 600 has its fair share of first time winners. Joe mentioned Austin Dillon when he won in 2017, won on fumes there at the end of field mileage race, and David Rudiman 2009, Casey Mears 2007. That was actually my very first Coca-Cola 600 I ever watched. That was quite an exciting finish. Also field mileage. Matt Kenseth in the year 2000, Bobby Labonte in 1995, and Jeff Gordon in 1994, just to name a few drivers who got their very first career NASCAR Cup Series victories in the Coca-Cola 600. And other drivers that are looking for their first win, potentially in the Coke 600, are Tyler Reddick, Daniel Suarez, and Harrison Burton, who's had a really rough start to his first year in the NASCAR Cup Series. Do you believe there's potential for a shock winner this year?
Kobe, I do. You mentioned one driver. That is Daniel Suarez. Ross Chastain has already won twice this year for Trackhouse Racing. How bad do you think Daniel Suarez wants to add his name to the list of winners and join his teammate as a winner in the NASCAR Cup Series this year? He's been strong all year long. So I think one driver that you cannot count out tomorrow night is the driver of the number 99 for Trackhouse Racing. And that'd be Daniel Suarez. He is a legitimate contender to win NASCAR's longest race of the season.
One driver I'm looking at, Tyler Reddick. He has been so close to getting that first win over and over this year. Richard Childress Racing, I anticipate they're going to have a strong car this year at the Coca-Cola 600. I don't anticipate him exactly going out there, getting the pole, and being the headlines coming into the race. I anticipate he's going to have a quiet top 10 qualifying effort. That team, they're going to try to get a car that's going to be set up geared towards later in the evening when the track is more slick, more prime for that condition. I see this going to be a race where Tyler Reddick, if he doesn't have any bad luck, he is going to be leading late into this race. As long as he doesn't have any mistakes or get caught up in somebody else's mistake, like at Bristol when Chase Briscoe spun him out, ruining his near attempt at getting the win, just coming feet short of that victory. I see Tyler Reddick getting that win.
Yeah, I definitely think Tyler Reddick could be in position to get his very first career NASCAR Cup Series win. It seems like he's been the bridesmaid so many times already, so close. In a way, it kind of seems like Tyler Reddick is exactly where Kyle Larson was before he got his first NASCAR Cup Series win. Because Kyle Larson, before he won for the first time, he would always lead races. He would always be in position, but he was never at the right place at the right time, and something always went wrong. Kyle Larson had to lose a lot of Cup races before he finally got his first career Cup Series win. I think the same thing is happening right now with Tyler Reddick and Harrison Burton. It's been, as I mentioned, been a really rough start to his first year in the NASCAR Cup Series. I think just finishing the Coca-Cola 600, running all the laps, it would be a big win for him, and trying to finish on the late lap, get that experience. We all know that it's hard jumping from Xfinity to the Cup Series. We probably expected Harrison Burton to run a lot stronger than he has so far this year, but he's still young, learning all the tracks in this new next gen car. I say give Harrison Burton some time, and he'll finally start seeing the results that we all expected at the start of the season. And Daniel Suarez, it has to be very frustrating watching Ross Chastain perform as well as he's performing, because I know at some point, if Daniel Suarez cannot start performing closer to a level of Ross Chastain, people are going to start asking the question: does Trackhouse need to go out and get another driver who can potentially match Ross? Because there's a lot of drivers right now I have a feeling will be interested in driving for Team Trackhouse. So Daniel Suarez definitely needs to put together results. I will say that Suarez, a lot of the things that have gone wrong for him have been, not of his doing. A lot of bad luck that has fallen his way. I think once he gets luck on his side, we might see Daniel Suarez really start putting together those runs similar to Ross Chastain and the driver that you mentioned. You talked a lot about Joe Tyler Reddick. He didn't make the All Star race last weekend at Texas Motorspiel. It was really shocking to many. Both RCR cars didn't transfer or get the fan vote. Suarez had a great run for Trackhouse at Texas, trying to transfer that over to Charlotte. And this year, both of them have had strong races. The new car bringing the competition closer. However, last weekend at Texas, we saw issues with the tires again, a recurring theme this year in the Coke 600. That won't be a green flag run any longer than 100 laps since we have four 100 lap stages. Do you believe tires could be an issue, and what other challenges could the drivers face during the 600-mile race?
I do believe the tires will be an issue in this race. One of the big things, of course, tire pressures, especially early on when that track's much more hotter. You're going to see where, with that slick track, you're going to be doing the lower air pressures. Once it gets cooler and cooler into the night, and that track goes from slick to tighter and tighter conditions, you're going to see the pressures. You're not going to have to risk them being so low. The big thing is in that first half of the race, will we see drivers push it too low and have a repeat of what happened with tires being blown at Texas Motor Speedway, at Kansas, at California Auto Club Speedway? We thought that was just okay. This is the first time that was a 2 mile oval. Now this is starting to become a little bit more of a concern. It's not so much a loose wheel, but it's just the tire pressures. And the hard part, since it's a bigger rim and those tires are usually even more ripped up by the time they come around, it's hard for Goodyear to look at the tires and say, oh, yeah, low air pressure because of this caused the tire failure. So I do think tire is going to be a big concern in this race.
It's the only race of the season where we start in the daytime and we race into the night. And strategy is going to be a key in tomorrow night's race. Who, because, like you mentioned, Joe, the track will get hot in the daytime, and as we work toward the night, it'll get cooler. Teams are going to have the perfect strategy for all 600 miles, 400 laps. I think tires will be an issue tomorrow night. Hopefully, we won't see anything like we saw in the Austria race at Texas Motor Speedway. But I think you have, really good pit strategy all throughout the race. You have a shot to win the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte. It it's going to be interesting. It's not. It's the only time of the year that we run 600 miles in NASCAR's longest test for this next gen car. So we'll see how everything goes as we start in the daytime and end at night in Charlotte.
Yes, and if we're having issues in races at up to 500 miles so far this year or less, imagine the type of issues that we're going to see in a 600-mile race. And I know with the Gen 6 car in the past, a lot of people said, since the equipment is so good with the reliability, the 600-mile race, a lot of people felt like in certain ways it kind of lost its appeal. But I think with the next gen car, I think it's back now because when you throw in the issues with tires and the brand new parts. I believe this year's Coca-Cola 600 could be an old school type of classic in a way because I'm expecting there could be a lot of attrition and seeing how hard it is how harder it is to drive these new cars. I think it could be a challenge for drivers. I think we could see some spins, maybe a few multi-car wrecks. Not a big one, but maybe about two or three cars involved, and then potentially issues with the tires. I really think this could be a race of attrition. And Adam, you talked about going from day to night. That's the I think the big thing is keeping up with the changing track conditions. A good car in the day may not be so good at the night. The Coca-Cola 600 we typically see a lot of comers and goers, so it's gonna be up to the driver providing good feedback to the crew chief, and the crew chief making the necessary challenge, keep up with the track and make sure they give their driver a good handling car when it matters the most.
Yeah, and Kobe, we know you're we know you're about to cover the Xfinity race for the podium finish. So we thank you for being a part of the Indy 500 pre-race show and also this pre-race show as well. And before we let you go, we'll let you make your picks for the Coca-Cola 600, Monaco Grand Prix, and the MotoGP Italian Grand Prix all tomorrow on Sunday.
Okay, and I'll start with the Coca-Cola 600. I think it's going to be a driver from Joe Gibbs Racing, but not the Joe Gibbs Racing driver you expect. He's been really fast in qualifying, and we'll see if he can try to put it together for the race. I think the driver to number 20, Christopher Bell, is going to surprise a few people and win the Coca-Cola 600. And for the Italian Grand Prix and MotoGP, this is going to be really tough. But give me Zarco. I think Zarco will get it done, and then Formula One, I think the Monaco curse is going to end. Charles Leclerc, Scooter Ferrari going to get it done on the iconic streets of Monte Carlo.
That'll be really exciting to see if that curse comes to an end and if Zarco could pull it off at Italy. The Ducatis there, they are looking fast. And Julia, we had an eventful qualifying session in Mugello where we saw thunder, lightning, and drama on the track. Q1 had a red flag, which we saw a lot going on because you had the rain there, not the red flag, the rain flags going, and riders out there on slick tires putting down hot lap after hot lap. We looked like Brad Binder was going to get through, but at the end, it was a surprise. It looked like Jack Miller was also going to get through, but again, right behind it, Mark Marquez got the final spot to get into Q2. But shortly after that, in Q2, when he exited pit road, he high sided the bike. The other rider from Q1 to get into Q2, Fabio Di Gianantonio from Gosini Racing, he went on and took the pole. A rookie in his home race has the pole on the weekend. Rossi's number is being retired. The Mooney 46, VR 46, both of them are on the front row as well. Was this more a result of today's weather conditions? And do you anticipate the favorites like Bagnaia, Bastianini, and others to find their way towards the front tomorrow?
Well, as we know, the weather always messes up in MotoGP. I think it's one of the main factors always in the qualifying, in the race. Everything changes so fast. And like we've seen today, we've seen just riders going out on slicks because it was, drying out. The weather was getting better. I think seeing Brad Binder on the slicks in the rain didn't surprise anyone after Austria last year. But yeah, it was really crazy qualifying. But honestly, it's really exciting to see a new generation up front. But it's also crazy to think that we have two Rockies up front, So Fabio and Marco. It was absolutely surprising. I didn't expect that. I honestly thought it's gonna be Enea or it's gonna be Pecco. I don't know, maybe Fabio out of nowhere is gonna find his space. But definitely I didn't expect Fabio Di Gianantonio to grab the pole. So yeah, I think it was in a big way a fracture of today's weather conditions. Because it was obviously something that helped him. And Fabio found something what the others couldn't find in this weather, as well as Marco and Luca. Something what even Pecco Bagnaia couldn't find. But I still think that in the race, honestly, I don't think Fabio is the favorite to win this race, or Marco, or Luca, because even though they did good in qualifying, it was one lap. And still, even if we're going to have a flag to flag or wet race, or we're going to have a perfect weather tomorrow, it's still going to be maybe a fracture of the, experience. And this is a thing of Enea, this is a thing of Pecco, and this is a thing of Fabio. But, Fabio has a pretty big wall of Ducatis in front of him, which is going to be really hard for him to pass them. But it's always possible they are going to find their way up the front. Of course, unless the weather is gonna be crazy and we're gonna see, like a domino of riders just crashing, like we've seen in Moto2 in Portugal. But I really hope we're not going to see it. And we're gonna see a really cool race, and I really hope that this guy's in front, this Rocky, is gonna at least pull up a fight to guys like Pecco. And also that the thing is that today Fabio Di Giannantonio, I think he showed that he really deserves to be in MotoGP, because his results, of course, were not, there was no wow in them. Just like in the Remis Gardner results, like in Real Fernandez, Darren Binder, who's in even worse situation because he just came straight from Moto3. But today, he proved that he can ride this bike really. He can be better than Enea, which I think is even more important for him. That he got the fact that he got the pole, which is of course he's ecstatic about. But I will see, because it also, I think this weekend may also affect the whole drama, including the driver contracts for next year, and this retirements, the ones that are not going to be in the MotoGP next year. But I just hope tomorrow, and I think we will see a great fight, maybe between Ducatis, but it's still gonna be a great fight, because even though they are on the same manufacturer bike, they are not friends.
Yeah, they're not friends, and you bring up a really great point. The future generation of MotoGP. For me, it's still surprising to see them, especially in these satellite private teams, not the factory teams up front. But it's very exciting. And Julia, after qualifying, one of the drivers who has been a name in MotoGP for quite some time, Marc Marquez, in the press conference, said he'll miss more races, a fourth surgery on that arm. No exact time period announced on when he'll return. And since the arm injury, he has had surgeries. He had that infection, which made more complications with the recovery. Some of the races he may miss, the next two, particularly Catalonia and Germany, where he won last year, and he's been perfect every time he's raced in Germany. Does this end his championship hopes, and how concerning is it now to have a fourth surgery and the recovery time, which it's unknown, as they said?
Yeah, so Mark was 12th today, which is not really ideal for him, but it's still better than what we could have expected from him after Friday. Sorry. But generally, honestly, his crash was quite scary, because once again, it was a big high side, like in Indonesia. He was just through the bike, like 3 meters in the air, and he just hit his arm, and, the asphalt, his head, and I think he was lost a whole weekend. So he didn't have pace. He didn't know what to do. He even looked like he don't know what to do, and he doesn't know what to do, and he never shows it. So honestly, but I don't think it may affect his health. Of course, it may affect his mental thinking. He's just done. He doesn't know what to do anymore. And like he said that yesterday, he got a confirmation that his arm is finally be able to be operated, because before his bone was too soft to do it. And he hopes that it may help him. And honestly, I think is now that Mark is there are different types of people. That there is one type who, even though they want to give up sometimes, they just can't do it because this is not in their character. Even if they want to sometimes give up, saying, I don't care at all, they're not doing it. I think Mark is one of them. And even though his championship hope for this season is, of course, over, because this is too much of race without points, too many races, so, left without him. Yeah, his fourth surgery is a little concerning. But he said that this is a surgery that may give him more ability to move in this arm, and not to, because he said he put too much pressure on the left arm because of this, his right. So it also may be a saver call for his left arm. So I think all we can do now is really wait of how his recovery is gonna go, how long it's gonna last, and what he's gonna do after that. But I think for sure he's not gonna retire before he returns, and before he at least try to win some races. And taking the fact that he won 3 races last year, even though he had so much problems with his arm that now needs to be operated, I think it says how much great rider he is. And he doesn't have like terrible results. It could be worse, really. He could be at the back like Valentino for whole last season, and he is not. He is mostly in top 10. But this, as he said, this is not something he is okay with it, because he is an 8-time world champion who's been dominated. This is not something he likes. So yeah, we can only wait. We can only also see how it's gonna affect people. We've been thinking how it's gonna affect the drivers market, if Honda is ready to wait for him. But honestly, seeing how much Honda believes in him, I don't think we have to worry about that. They believe in him. They have his back. And honestly, they don't want to give up on a rider who knows the machine, who knows the team, when they are thinking about getting a new one. Yeah, so yeah. And I remember what Mark said to me last year in Austria when I talked to him, and he pretty much mirrored it today. That you need to believe. You need to just believe, and I think he is kind of keeping up to this rule. Of course, Mission Germany is such a shame because his streak of 11 wins in a row. So from so many years, it's gonna end not of his fault, because it's not like he's not gonna win or he's gonna crash the race or something. It's not. He's just not going to be there. It's not going to be his fault, which is a shame. But we can just hope that he is going to come back soon. Like Fabio Quartararo, literally, I think 10 minutes after this press conference ended, he published a photo with Mark saying that I got P6, but this matters less. I just want this guy to be back, quickly and healthy. So I think it shows how much they all respect each other and see that Mark Marquez is the rival, one of the greatest rival, and this is someone they want to beat on track.
Yeah, one of the greatest rivals for anyone in MotoGP is going out there beating Marc Marquez. And like you said, he is so determined. I mean, Circus of America, if it wasn't for that bad start, he may have won that race with just a phenomenal ride from the back up to sixth place. My goodness, he could still do it. And like you said, after the surgery, when he comes back, he's not thinking about retiring. He's thinking, okay, I'm going to go out there, try to get the wins, and contend for another championship. This time, though, when he comes back, probably 2023 for the championship at least, and we're going to have 2 fewer Yamahas. RNF Racing, which picked up everything after Petronas Yamaha Racing sort of closed up, they're switching to Aprilia next year. So we're only going to have 2 Yamahas. We know Honda's looking at potentially expanding. There are already a lot of Ducatis on the grid, and now with some more Aprilias, can Yamaha be at a disadvantage with only 2 bikes in each race?
Well, having not having a satellite team, is the private team is always a disadvantage. But I've been saying, Lynn Jarvin, you can say, has been quite mean. At least you can say mean, because he's been saying a little that between the lines that even though they have the air enough with Yamaha, they are not helping them. They're like, it's like they're without it, so they're not giving them good data. They're not giving them even the riders for the future, because we have Andrea Dovizioso there and Darren Binder who to perform, who is gonna need at least 1 more year in MotoGP, because he came straight from Moto2 and he's still doing. He's sometimes even faster than Andrea, and he was in top 10 in Indonesia. Is the best place for the Rockies so far in the race, I think. So yeah, honestly, it's always a disadvantage. We could see that Suzuki sometimes would really need the satellite team, and that let's just not talk about the fact they are just leaving at all, so we're gonna have no more Suzuki. But they were in lack of it sometimes, so it may be a problem for Yamaha, especially that their bike is not good. And last year this bike was at least decent, that Fabio could do many things with it. He was doing, I would say, miracles with it, like with Mark. So that we sometimes couldn't see that this bike is not really good bike. like with Mark in some years, that we just didn't know how much in trouble like Honda was because Mark was just performing, just like Fabio. And now he's still the best Yamaha. He's doing so well, but he has more problems. So without another team to get at least some of the data, it's gonna be a disadvantage for them. But honestly, I think this sport is so unpredictable. Like every week, as we have drama, we don't know what's gonna happen. That we honestly we just have to wait until 2023 when we're going to see how Yamaha will perform and if this lack or NNF on their side is really gonna affect them a lot. And honestly, I'm really happy about having another Aprilia because Aprilia is now really performing really well. So having a satellite team is gonna be really interesting to see. And I'm just happy it's not another Ducati because we already have a little of a Ducati gap sometimes. So I think it's enough. It's good to see Aprilia having a satellite team for the first time. It's gonna be really exciting. And also, yeah, I mean, we still have one team who's living, and technically, some teams were interested in getting another satellite team. So when Aprilia is out of the view for taking over Suzuki's old stuff, because they have another, I think, another satellite team, and probably they're not going to get another one. That leaves maybe Yamaha being involved in taking over Suzuki stuff, even though they've been saying, I think now that they're not planning on getting another satellite team, but who knows what's gonna come. Or Honda getting another one, or KTM wants to get a third one. We'll just have to see because, as I said, this is all so much connected that we'll just have to wait and see how it's gonna all end.
Going to be really interesting to see how it all ends and what happens in 2023. Now, of course, a bunch of riders, they're not waiting until 2023 because they know contracts, they're being signed left and right. And of course, with Yamaha having essentially just the two rides with Quartararo right there now, Morbidelli, what's going to happen there in Yamaha? We know what's happening in Aprilia. Vinales, Espargaro, they're going to be back. So Aprilia, they're going to have the same two riders. That means a bunch of riders are looking for 2023 plans, including Miguel Oliveira, which there have been a lot of rumors going around about potentially where he might go. How intense is this silly season, especially for MotoGP? Have we seen a silly season like this before?
I don't think in that way because this is a really, really intense season. Like, I think we talked about it in the last show when I was, because I couldn't be there before France. I think we talked that we have 24 riders with only 4 getting, having a contract for next year. So that left 20 riders without any seat. And then we got an announcement that Suzuki is leaving. So this leaves us probably, because we still need to think if someone's going to take over or not, or we're going to be left without one team. Probably, maybe, less. And we got 2 more contracts being solved, so that Aleix and Maverick are staying with Aprilia with the factory team. But there are still, as we said, a bunch of riders who have no idea about the future, like Miguel Oliveira, who's been saying that he got an offer of staying in KTM, and he said, I've heard from our commentators and Polish journalists I know, he's been saying it really clearly and openly. He can stay at KTM, but he got an offer to stay at Tech Free. So the private team, not the factory team he is now. And what about Brad Binder? Maybe he's gonna stay because he's performing well, which would be really fair to him. But honestly, also there's a rumor of Jean Mir going to Repsol Honda because they need someone to perform well, and they, I think, believe that it may be Joan, not Paul, who's been still really struggling. But giving up Paul so quickly still may be hard for them because he got to know a bike and team a little, and it still leaves Joan coming as a fresh new to this team and to this hard bike, and without maybe but hopefully not without Mark. But I think, honestly, I think he will be back by 2023. And he has a contract, so we can be pretty sure about him staying in the team. But there have also been rumors going around that Honda got even interested in Jorge Martin, who still is not sure about if it's going to be him going to Ducati next to Pecco Bagnaia, or if it's going to be Enea Bastianini, or is Jack Miller staying. But honestly, Jack Miller's performance, especially this weekend, it's not really proven that Ducati is happy with him and that they would like him to to stay in the factory team, especially how angry he was. And honestly, I think that he's not gonna let Mark go after him anymore, even at any money, at any bottle of alcohol. No way, because he just lost Q2 because of that. Because they've been saying that they don't see Mark as a rival because he's so slow, but he was a little faster this time. But coming back to the topic, this is honestly so complicated, and we don't know if Dovizioso is gonna stay because he's really underperforming. And he's sometimes doing even worse than Darren Binder, who's a rookie and coming fresh from Moto3. So this is such a complicated situation, and everything's gonna affect it now. We should have some answers by summer. Fabio Quartararo has been saying, and there have been rumors that probably he's gonna stay with Yamaha for next season or two. So that should be a little settled because honestly, I don't have another place for Fabio to go now. I mean, out of Repsol Honda, but it will be interesting to see Fabio and Mark in one team. But this is a really, really almost impossible, I would say. And also, what's gonna happen to Elsevier Honda, so the second Honda team, where we have Alex Marquez, who is really, really underperforming. I think he got a little destroyed after he was thrown into the factory team of his brother from Moto2 immediately, because Alex, even though he has the same last name as Mark, is not Mark, and Mark did great in the first year. He won his championship coming straight from Moto2 to factory team, but he did not. He couldn't. This bike was too tough for him. And now he's underperforming even in this private team. And Taka Nakagami is not doing really good. And he's been saying that he may be replaced by Ayogura from Moto2. And there are still a bunch of guys in Moto2 who are great, like Aaron Canet or now Tony Arbolino, who's doing really great. So this is one of the biggest silly seasons, not only in MotoGP, but generally I've seen in my life, even taking in count in a picture of Formula One and other series. This is absolutely crazy, but I hope this is slowly gonna be solved and we'll finally have at least some of a picture for next year. But honestly, I think people are enjoying the people are enjoying the rumors and talking about, is John's gonna be at Honda or he's gonna lose MotoGP seat, or Jorge, what he's gonna do, if someone from Moto2, if Mark is staying, if Paul is staying. I think people are enjoying it.
Always entertaining those silly season rumors, and I agree with you. To only have 4 riders, I think even Adam could also agree with this when it comes to NASCAR, IndyCar. I don't recall so many drivers, riders without a future confirmed for the following season. It's going to be really interesting as this follows and develops. And you mentioned about Sunny picture for the next year. Well, tomorrow morning, there's rain in Mugello. And it should dry out later, but still there's always that persistent chance of rain, like what we saw today. You had the rain flags out, but riders on slick tires. We had thunder and lightning going on. The track, if it's dry though, a lot of people anticipate Ducati, they're going to have a podium sweep. But if we get the rain, do you anticipate more non-Ducati riders on the podium? Or essentially, is this going to be really Ducati's race to lose because they're just looking so fast no matter the conditions?
They do look fast, and I think they would be really quite annoyed if they wouldn't use the occasion to get a whole Ducati podium. But I do really anticipate other riders to get into this fight. Maybe Brad Binder if it's gonna rain, maybe Fabio Quartararo, It would be really interesting to see a fight because, after this whole area drama in MotoGP, that there's more aerodynamics and other things. We have less and less overtaking in MotoGP. So it would be really cool to see the fight. Of course, this is very much possible. We're gonna get a whole Ducati podium. Even if it's not gonna rain, we still have quite in front. We have Pecco, we have Jean Zarco, and we have Jorge Martin. They are there. They are ready to win. I think Jean Zarco is really dying to win a race right now. I've been even seeing some memes on TikTok and other social media saying that, it's like year 2050 and there is no more Valentino with us, no more Mark, Fabio, but Jean Zarco is still trying to win a race. So it would be really cool to see him, finally winning. But honestly, I think this Rockies up front, they are not gonna be the light only with a fight. They would like to get at least a podium, a glimpse of this podium, fight for it. So it's gonna be crazy. Of course, this is MotoGP. If it's rain, everyone can always win. Everyone can always crash. And the second is even more possible. But I am really excited to see, and I am also excited to see, for example, how Suzuki is gonna go through the field from the back, how Mark Marquez is gonna do with this whole thinking that he doesn't have a really good pace, but maybe there's some weight of his shoulders being, maybe this is just gone, and he will be feeling better, or he will just drive it to the end and then go safely to USA for the surgery. And then we have Jack Miller in the back and what he can do, especially if it's rain, because he's quite an expert of riding in rain and winning. So I think this is gonna be one of another really exciting race in MotoGP.
Exciting race, and of course, a big moment of the weekend. We'll bring Ada in to join us for this as well. Today, Valentino Rossi, number 46, retired, and then on another big move, his rival early on, Max Bigari, introduced as a MotoGP legend. We talked about our favorite Rossi moments a couple of weeks ago. I know when Rossi retired, Adam, you shared your favorite memories after his retirement in that last race. But now we have Max in there, who was a very early rival for Valentino. Julie, starting with you, how great is it to see both riders recognized and the rivalry recognized?
I am really, really excited to see them both recognized. Honestly, it's really this retiring the number. It's really, people have different opinions, and that some would like to just leave it. So someone who is ready to take the pressure to show up and take this number, for example. Some just would like to have it retire because they can recall anyone on the place of Valentino. I think Valentino is like, he just show up to smile to the picture and get his trophy, because once he said that he doesn't really care about that he is not even a fan of taking this number down, because he will be interested to see someone coming and getting it. But it already happened. It's kind of a respect towards him, which is almost great. And also having Max Biaggi, and becoming a MotoGP legend, which is really deserved after his whole rivalry with Rossi, after his titles in 250s. I'm really excited. Of course, it happens after some years. You have to be a legend like Valentino to get introduced as a legend immediately at the same day you retired. Even Jorge Lorenzo had to wait some time. We'll see in the future how much time Mark will be waiting for that, because for sure he's gonna be one. But yeah, I'm really excited to see that. It's really nice because truth to be told, he didn't even need to be introduced to this gallery to be a legend, because everyone is saying that the MotoGP legend are Valentino Rossi, Jorge Lorenzo, Casey Stoner, Dani Pedrosa, Marc Marquez, him, Max Biaggi, and others without even being introduced to it. So But it's night that it's official. There was a ceremony. He got a medal. It was really nice and exciting to see. It was really nice that it all happened in Mugello.
Two Italian legends in Mugello. I can remember when Max Biaggi was riding and Valentino Rossi was his rival. Those two would go at it race after race, with lap after lap. It didn't matter where they were racing. At the TT course in Austin, Mugello, Laguna Seca, those two went after. Those two were. Those two would battle each and every race. And to see Max Biaggi now becoming a MotoGP legend, it's about time. He is up there among the greats. And Julia, you mentioned some other greats from MotoGP as well. Denny Pedrosa, Jorge Lorenzo, Casey Stoner. I'll throw in Nicky Hayden. This was a very nice ceremony, and to see these two being honored in Mugello, I was very happy about it. And with that being said, Julia, it's now time for you to make your pick for who you think is going to win the Italian Grand Prix tomorrow. So, who wins in Mugello?
Oh my god, this is the worst question, especially for especially for this conditions we're going to have yesterday and the fact who's starting from pole because this is a rocky. Oh my god. Honestly, I think I'm gonna go with a feeling, and my feeling says Enea. To be honest, because he has quite a pace, even though he was frustrated and has been crashing, but he is really good at driving to the front, saying the fact that he has the same bike as Fabio, and that he may use his data for his own advantage. I would say that he may be quite one of the candidates to win the race tomorrow, aside from Pecco, Fabio, like typical ones, and with the crazy scenario, Marco or Fabio. I think I'm gonna go for Enea.
That's a solid pick, Julia. We thank you for your time, as always.
Once again, thank you so much, Julia. Super appreciate. And of course, that leaves Formula One. Formula One, they also had a very dramatic qualifying session in which we saw towards the end Sergio Perez, Carlos Sainz, they got into each other. Perez, he spun, back end damage, potentially have to replace the gearbox. Here comes Sainz around the corner, spins, back left tire hits it. Does he need to get a new gearbox? Because here's the big key. In the pole, you have Charles Leclerc. Alongside him right now, Carlos Sainz. Behind Perez is, Perez is behind Charles Leclerc and Verstappen in fourth behind Sainz. You can already see the start. You got the championship leader behind what many assume is the number 2 Ferrari driver, Carlos Sainz. This could allow Leclerc to get that clean first entry into that first corner. But along with that, tomorrow, Adam, potential for rain. The forecast shows as high as up to 75% at some point during the race. Adam, if we get the rain, we remember 1996 in Monaco. How crazy would this race be?
Oh, it would be absolutely chaotic. It's one of the tightest circuits on the Formula One calendar. Normally, when we think of the Grand Prix of Monaco, it's beautiful weather there in the Principality. Everyone's there on their yachts. You have so many celebrities that attend this race each and every year. But with rain in the forecast, it could be chaotic. Could we see a surprise winner that we don't expect to win tomorrow? It could happen. Could we see a driver from the back of the grid finding their way toward the front? Could happen. And could we see this intense championship battle between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen? Could we see somebody wreck it somewhere along the circuit in the rain? Could happen.
A lot could happen. And of course, as I mentioned, 1996 Monaco, only 4 vehicles finished, and the surprise winner, Oliver Panis, in the Ligier, got his first and only win. This time, we have a Ferrari front row. We got a Red Bull second row. But as I mentioned, Sainz, he got Verstappen behind him. Perez, he's behind Charles Leclerc, the pole sitter. Sainz has not been lucky with good starts at all. In fact, that could be why could Red Bull look at potentially having Perez get that new gearbox, that grid penalty, and then Verstappen is going to be behind Leclerc, not Sainz. Do you anticipate Red Bull? They might sacrifice the all Red Bull second row to get Verstappen behind Leclerc instead of Sainz entering that first corner?
I do. I truly do. And it's going to be very interesting to see how everything develops after the wreck in qualifying between Sergio Perez and Carlos Sainz. If someone has to have a gearbox change, that could be a very big outcome in determining the start tomorrow. I say if you're starting at least inside the top 5, you have a really good shot to win the race tomorrow, even if it does rain. Like I mentioned, this track is one of the narrowest on the F1 calendar. There's not much room to pass, so you got to make your passes really right, and you may have to outbrake somebody in order to pass them. So to me, one of the key places on the track to pass is on the front stretch. Other than that, normally we see a single file train throughout the race.
Single file train, and here's the thing. You mentioned that first front stretch, entering turn 1. We know Carlos Sainz, he had his left rear tire make contact with Sergio Perez. We saw last year when Charles Leclerc decided not to get the gearbox change, he did not even get to start the race. If Ferrari were to change that gearbox on Sainz's car, you're going to have on the front row Charles Leclerc on pole, Max Verstappen right next to him. If we get the rain and those two are in the front row, do you think they'll make it out of turn 1?
Well, Joe, if it does rain and you have Charles Leclerc on pole and then Max Verstappen alongside, turn one is a very narrow corner, and I say one of them goes off. I won't say which one, but I think we will have a wreck there in turn 1. Normally in Monaco Grand Prix, we do see a wreck at turn 1, and it causes a red flag. And so, even if it's not Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen making contact tomorrow, if it does rain, like they're saying, everyone's going to have to be very cautious going into turn 1, because after turn 1, you go uphill. So I think we could see contact between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen tomorrow going into turn 1, because this championship right now is between those two drivers.
Yeah, the championships between those two. Now, of course, if anything happens between those two or the other two Red Bull Ferraris or all four of them, you have Lando Norris in fifth, Russell, Alonso, and Hamilton. That's your top eight right there. Any one of those drivers can get a win if it gets ugly up front between the Ferraris and the Red Bull. And of course, if you throw in the weather too, well, it becomes survival like 1996, where you saw Damon Hill, Jack Villeneuve, Michael Schumacher, Eddie Irvine all go out of the race. McLaren, Mercedes, Alpine. Which team do you feel has the best shot at the podium or a win if the Ferrari and Red Bulls are out of contention?
Well, one team that I'm looking out for has to be Mercedes. Last week at the Spanish Grand Prix, we saw George Russell holding off Max Verstappen in the Red Bull during that race. George Russell is a legitimate driver at Mercedes. And Mercedes really hasn't had a lot of luck this year. If Red Bull and Ferrari drop out, could we see Mercedes have a strong race? And we never can forget, and we cannot count out McLaren. Lando Norris, Daniel Ricciardo, yeah, those two are strong. Alpine, you gotta look at. So I think, to me, if Ferrari and Red Bull have trouble, look out, because Mercedes wants to jump in on this championship, not only in the driver's perspective, but the constructor standings as well.
Yeah, and depending on what happens up front, if there's gear changes between Sainz, Perez, both of them, none of them, you got to then realize, okay, you have the even number starting positions on that inside. So that is Sainz, Verstappen, and then that's going to be Russell in six. On the outside, where you have Leclerc, Perez, and Russell. Russell could be a big benefactor if there's some changes or no changes or contact in the front to get that early edge on Lando Norris. And then don't count on Alonso. Yeah, he put it in the wall, but was front end down, so not concerned about that gearbox. Hamilton, especially after last year where he just seemed to do nothing, I think he might be stuck mid pack. I don't see him doing a whole lot as well. Now, we do have a question from the chat room, Adam. What were the surprises from your guys in qualifying just now? What was the big surprise for you in qualifying?
Well, for me, qualifying, I think one driver to me surprising was Pierre Gasly. He's starting in the top 10 for AlphaTauri. If it rains, could we see him come out of nowhere and win tomorrow? It's possible. So for me, one driver had to be Pierre Gasly.
Pierre Gasly, I'll say Fernando Alonso being seventh in that Alpine, that was a bit of a surprise for me. When it comes to some of the surprises in the back, I have to say Haas. Magnussen, 13th. I thought he was going to be in the top 10 easily, especially with Haas, the speed they've been showing all year long. See him only get a 13th place was just shocking to me to see that. And of course, Mick Schumacher in 15th. So that was my big surprise in qualifying. Thank you, SHT, for that comment. And then I believe was surprised about Alpine as well. They were like nowhere in all the free practice, very true. And then they came to live. And then also Vettel into Q3, also a big surprise. That was pretty good to see Vettel. He is up in 9th place. We know last year, a lot of people were talking about his teammate Lance Stroll, particularly the infamous camera switch during the battle, but that was between Pierre Gasly, Lewis Hamilton, and Sebastian Vettel. Sebastian Vettel, he's up towards the front. Pierre Gasly, 17th out of it. Lewis Hamilton is one row ahead. Could we see a potentially, if we get rain, Lewis Hamilton, Sebastian Vettel really dueling each other, especially with strategy and if the front runners or others with the rain? How exciting could that be, Adam, to see those two former world champions? You got 7 from Hamilton, 3 from Vettel. How huge would that be?
Oh, I think it'd be huge. I think it'd be huge, Joe. You know, Sebastian Vettel and Lewis Hamilton battling back and forth for a position in the Monaco Grand Prix. Yeah, I that would be huge to see because normally because those two really haven't had a lot of success this year. So Sebastian, so if people start to fall out, Lewis Hamilton and Sebastian Vettel, could they battle for a podium tomorrow in the rain? We'll see.
We'll see. And one correction, I misspoke, probably because I was talking about Vettel in Q3. Vettel has 4 F1 championships. So that essentially is quite a lot of championships between him and Hamilton. If those two were battling for the win, oh my goodness. Twitter is going to be crazy. And of course, if those two are battling for the win, that means we have a crazy race to talk about on Monday. Not tomorrow, Monday. Grid Life wrap up at noon Eastern. And of course, we're going to know then who had a fun weekend and pick a winner.
That's right, Joe. And if you watched our coverage of, if you watched our Indy 500 Prix before us, we all chose our picks for the Indy 500. But now there are other races across this weekend as well. So, in taking a look at our leaderboard, Kobe's on top with 22. I'm at 16. Alex Fleener from Twitter is 1 point behind me. Our colleague Ben Schneider is in 4th with 12. Matt White and Joe Samaniego are tied for 5th. So this weekend could be critical. And if you're watching, if you correctly guess each race, it's 4 bonus points. So be sure to get your picks in before all the action gets going tomorrow morning. That being said, all right, Joe. All right. Starting in NASCAR, who is the Coca-Cola 600 in Charlotte?
A driver I haven't talked about. Well, actually, I did talk a little bit about. But I remember to talk about his teammate Austin Dillon. I'm going with Tyler Reddick. I think he's going to be the next first-time Cup Series winner at the Coca-Cola 600.
And for me, I'm going with the driver that only has 1 win this year. Yeah, I picked him a lot so far this year, but hopefully he'll give me another point and pick a winner. So I'm going Kyle Larson. And now we switch over to MotoGP in Italy for the Italian Grand Prix at Mugello. Joe, who wins?
I'm going with a surprise. I wish Julia was here to see her thoughts on this. I am going with Luca Marini, who is starting 3rd in the VR46 Ducati. Get his first win on the weekend. The 46 retired. Storybook end and a storybook start for his career in MotoGP.
Well, I'm going to go with a rider that actually Kobe picked. I'm going Johan Zarco to win the Italian Grand Prix. And now we switch over to the Monaco Grand Prix in historic Monte Carlo at the Principality. Rain is in the forecast. So with that being said, Joe, who wins?
Rain's in the forecast. We don't know what's going to happen in the start, especially if we have gearbox changes. I'm still going to go with Max Verstappen, I think he knows he's in a good spot. He doesn't need to win the race into turn one. If he's second or even third, he'll hang there because he knows pit strategies where he could do it. And if he doesn't do it, don't blow your points lead. Max Verstappen, he's going to get the job done at Monaco.
Well, I think there's going to be a collision in turn one between Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. I think Max Verstappen retires. And just like the Red Sox 86 years ago when they broke their curse, Charles Leclerc is going to end his curse. And I'm going with the Ferrari driver who starts on the pole to break his curse and win the Monaco Grand Prix in his home country tomorrow morning. So if you're watching this, you have a full day of motorsports ahead as you start your day with the Monaco Grand Prix. You have your lunch at the Indy 500, and you end your day in the Queen City of Charlotte, North Carolina, for the Coca-Cola 600. It's like Christmas for a motorsports fan. So be sure to watch our wrap-up show Memorial Day Monday at noon as we recap all the action across the motorsports world.
And if you want a special pre-breakfast treat, MotoGP at Mugello. I think that's going to be a lot of fun. That means I'm going to be up at 5 a.m. to watch 4 exciting races. It's going to be a lot of fun. And we are just about out of time. We want to thank our Patreon investors, calling the show Mark and Ron, for investing in the Grid Network each and every month they contribute to the Grid Network. And if you want to do a one-time contribution, click the link in the video description to buy me a coffee, just like what Ed, Amber, and Zach have done. Thank you three so much for that. We really appreciate staying on the air, bringing you coverage of motorsports each and every week. And invite everyone to visit our sponsor, Public.com. You get $5 in free stock for using the referral code GRIDnet. There you can learn about investing in the stock market, making new friends, and there's even crypto, so a lot on Public.com. And of course, you get $5 in free stock to invest, so you don't even have to start off with your own money, but just use the referral code GRIDnet. Great sponsor for the Grid Network here. And of course, as Adam has mentioned, we'll be on the air Monday, noon Eastern. So we're going to have a lot to discuss. I believe Joshua is going to be with us as well, too. Of course, he's covering Formula 2 right now in Monaco. Busy day for him. Link to his channel in the video description, as well as Ben Schneider, who will be on the air Monday with his also Grid Encore. So we got a busy Monday ahead for us right here in the Grid Network. For Adam Lemeries, I'm Joe Samaniego. Thank you for watching today's show. We'll see you next time, and enjoy the races. Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform, Public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities, such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on Public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest. Start investing and networking on Public.com.